I'm just checking the upload percentage. I watch it there. I'm getting greens. I have 5 eyeballs already on us. So welcome everybody. I'm Joel Horwitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Synter Media. We have Tristan Boznar here from Hyrax slash Iru. I hope I'm pronouncing any of those things correctly, Tristan. I'm so sorry.
No, it's
But
okay.
we're really excited to have you here. Would love to learn more about yourself, obviously, your journey, what you've been working on. With Hyrax. What is Hyrax? So yeah, I'll just love to have you kind of take it away.
That sounds good. Thanks for having me, Joel, and it's always a pleasure catching up with you, given our intimate working relationship. But I just figured I would introduce myself. So my name's Tristan, as you pointed out, and I lead GTM for Hyrax, which is an automated code and remediation solution for engineering teams. Hyrax is part of a larger company called Iru and formerly Kanji. We do endpoint security, identity, compliance automation. We started out in Apple endpoint only, and we've evolved the company significantly, and we renamed ourself last year. So we're an IT security and infrastructure company. Uh,
And
oh,
based
go
out of
ahead.
Miami Beach, right? Based out of Miami Beach, Florida.
Not Miami Beach, but
Oh,
Miami
Miami.
in Coral Gables. We
Coral
also have a
Gables, right?
pretty large office in London where we have our
Oh,
EMEA
nice.
team. We have an APAC presence in Japan and Korea.
Mm,
We're expanding a lot in Israel right now.
wow.
And we mostly serve emerging or larger tech companies who have a lot of engineers or IT needs to just secure their enterprises, make it a lot easier to work and
Mm,
collaborate across the company, particularly as remote teams have become much more popular since 2020. So
yeah.
Hyrax is a separate initiative that I've been very lucky to work on. He's not here, but our founding engineer, Tyler Yates, he's been with the company since the beginning
Wow.
of Iru in 2018, 2019. He developed this platform earlier this year
Mm,
because he had to do a massive migration of some of our code base, and he was going to have to check hundreds of thousands of lines
mm,
of code. And with that, he thought, all right, I'm a smart engineer, so I'm going to just develop my own platform, which initially was just a CLI, and it was
mm,
called Kaizen, just for background, which is a fun word. It just means continuous improvement in Japanese.
mm.
So we thought about calling it that, but Hyrax is his favorite animal, hence why we called it. So it's a rock hyrax, which is actually related to an elephant, weirdly, and they sing and do all kinds of stuff. So,
Wow.
and our logo is an actual named hyrax. His name is Kevin. If you want to go to the website, you can create your
I
own
love it.
characters and put it in the app. So mine is named Cranston,
That's sweet.
uh, and he's kind of a weird guy that sits in there. But in any case, we're solving the problem of two things. One is there's been a massive increase in velocity of code since AI was introduced. You have Claude Code, you have Codex, whatever else you want, Kimi, open weight models, Quen, etc. And the velocity of code has created something called the velocity paradox,
Mm,
where you have, 5, 10, 20 times the output of code for companies and even
mm,
single engineers at smaller companies, but the bottleneck is still the same, which is somebody has to review all these pull requests.
mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, the code is also very bloated, and the way of the future, or at least in the modern engineering times, it's more about developing elegant code and less is more,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you don't need to refactor over and over again. And what Hyrax does is it understands any customer's code base in terms of content by auditing everything, by
Mm,
connecting directly to GitHub. We don't yet serve GitLab, but hopefully
mm,
later this year or next
mm,
year, and really understanding, is this an internal app? Is this an external app facing customers? And going across multiple different agents, I won't name them all, and just saying, all right, what does security look like? What does maintainability look like? What
mm,
does quality look like? And trying to figure out and assess through benchmarks, each agent, scores 1 out of 10, and say, all right, from a security perspective, which is our specialty, you're
mm,
going to have a lot of vulnerabilities because your API keys are exposed. Things like that. Quality
mm,
is there's 10,000 lines of extra code that are unnecessary. And also, it's not going to be easy to maintain. And we will effectively score all of these elements. We will go through, provide a series of recommendations that are exhaustive through this auditing or scanning process. And
Mm.
we'll come back not only providing the benchmarks, but saying, here is a priority list of low, medium, and high order for each agent. And it says, all right, this is what we found. This is what we recommend. It also creates what we call it a Hyrax markdown file, .md file.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this portable document of your entire code base talking about the context of what kind of app is it, what does it do, how is it written, etc. It's like a mini knowledge base without us even knowing the company. And then from there, you as the engineer or engineering team can decide based on our recommendations, do you want to actually implement any of these fixes? Now, there's many companies who are scanners or linters, etc. And I'll even name some of them, like CodeRabbit is a great company that we
Mm.
respect. We use it. SonarQube we use internally.
Hmm.
But our product goes beyond what they're doing because number one, we're providing a context model.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't use this term to market it right now, but it's more of a, I guess, a graph of the
Mm-hmm.
code
Mm-hmm.
instead of just being very myopic and looking at an individual pull request is not super helpful. We need to
Right.
look holistically. What are you trying to do with this code? And based on everything that we know, how can we improve the code to make it better for you? And then there's the human in the loop part. So you might have 37 findings. You might say, well, look, 10 of them are not a big deal for me, or I don't agree with them, which
Mm.
is every engineer should have a subjective point of view because that's based on their experience and their expertise. But they might say, all right, the 27 others would love to implement those.
Right.
As soon as you say fix, which is our main button, you can put them in all into a queue and just sit there
Mm.
and go get a coffee or do whatever it is you want, go have lunch. And then by the time you get back, it will have put those fixes into pull requests.
Mm.
Now, this is the important part is they don't just merge automatically because we deem that as being risky and unnecessary. The engineer loses control of what they're doing with their code.
Mm.
From there, they decide by looking at the pull requests in GitHub, do they want to merge them or not? And
Right.
then the end result is going to be much higher quality, higher security, just better overall code so the engineers and the company can ship higher quality products a lot faster and catch up with this velocity
Yep.
paradox. And over time, you can run as many audits as you want. So it's not a one-time event that's just stuck into perpetuity.
Mm.
You're going through this continuous improvement. So full circle back to Kaizen, you're going into a continuous improvement loop. So that's what Hyrax is. That's
Mm.
what we do, and we're growing the company right now and by finding technology platforms and companies within our space, very similar to the customers we have for Eager right now, and
Mm.
helping them unblock themselves so they can develop better products.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, you know, Hyrax is a godsend for us. I mean, really, it is. I was just gonna show you, this is just show people like kind of what this looks like. So for me, we have, I love this benchmark score, but it makes me a little bit nervous. But anyways, I mean, this is
That's
real. Like,
intentional.
yeah, maybe this is our. Can you see this, Tristan? All right, this is
I
our
can, yeah.
yeah, so this is our dashboard. So this is our staging environment, so don't get freaked out, anybody. But this is our staging. Our production's much better. But we're in the process of going through and getting ready to release a new version of Synter, and that's going to have a lot of more features that I'm really excited about. One of which is email outbound. Another of which is LLM visibility. We continue to add more ad platforms, which is really exciting. And as we're moving, I mean, I think we're getting pretty close to writing 7 million lines of code. Last I checked, it was around like 6.6 million. And so when you
Wow.
talk about velocity, we're moving fast. And right now, we're the only platform in the world that has access to 21 ad platforms via MCP. Our MCP is actually more capable than the native MCPs of say Google, Meta, I'm trying to think. And X, I guess X Ads also has an MCP, but it's only served kind of through Grok right now. So any case, like we're shipping fast, and I think the thing that stood out to me when I was looking for a solution with Hyrax was how I'm sorry, we're doing like the giant window screen thing, but
Mirroring, yes.
what stood out to me most was how, what I was using was kind of the native Claude. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are using like Claude Code, right? That's probably the like kind of like the most popular coding agent right now. In the populace, if you will. Codex is another one, but there are these skill files, right? Like it's a skill, and it's almost like a self review. So you do like /code-review, and it reviews your PRs. But what I found is like not having something like Hyrax running in the background really exposed us to some risk. And so when you're dealing with massive amounts of money, when it comes to running ads, right? For global brands like we are, and you're managing those connections, like we can't afford to have a security issue whatsoever. And so that's partly also not partly, but that's the other major reason why I chose you and Hyrax and Iru was because of that heritage of doing security. I remember when I was at SourceGraph, right, last year, similarly, right, to you, they had their core product, right? They're known for code search, right? Which is not a secret. Like SourceGraph basically invented the category. Pretty amazing, right? Like massive brands use SourceGraph for their code search and repos. And so they had kind of like have all this expertise of years of basically like, essentially index. I'm probably using the wrong terminology, so I hope no one at SourceGraph gets mad at me. But of essentially indexing, right? Like not just mono repos, but like, multiple repos and understanding how not just individual code should look, but how all the different dependencies, like really of like different repos and different systems should actually work together. And so that was one of the things that when they launched AMP Code last year, similar to you, Tristan, in my role, I was responsible for growth for AMP. And so it was a, new company within a big company, so to speak. And there was a massive amount of pressure on me and on my shoulders to grow AMP Code. So we had a team there, and without going into a lot of details, that was great. We had a fantastic team, and yet we actually lost some of our teammates to competitors. And so there was a moment around this time last year, like I want to say August, September, where it was like, okay, like what are we gonna do? Should we hire an agency or should we, hire more people? And truthfully, we just didn't have time. Like time is like the most valuable commodity we have. And so I started experimenting with AMP Code because that was our own product, and connecting it to Google AdWords, and just pulling the key down and seeing if I can just do like some really basic things. Like can I manage our keywords, right? So can I like keep a lookout for negative keywords, positive keywords that we want to add. And ultimately, the thing that I found, I think what I'm hearing, that we've been working together now for I want to say almost a month,
Oh,
if
more than
not
that.
more
Several
than that,
months.
right? Several months?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Dude, in startup land, it just feels like, I don't know, eons. I don't know, it just goes so
Totally.
fast. We're working together, and I think the biggest learning that I'm observing now, because from my experience at AMP Code was I worked with some tremendous engineers. I mean, I'm not even close to like their ability. I mean, they're unreal. Like ex Palantir guys, like amazing individuals. I worked with excellent operators there. And one guy in particular, my former manager Connor, like he was really good at like bridging the gap between development, right, our development team, and our marketing team, right, and that was the secret because we were, now when you're like shipping so many features so fast, right, landing pages are changing, apps are changing, your homepage is changing, right, like things are changing. That if you were to like, had we gone with like a more traditional, I think, approach to growth marketing, right? Um, Boy, I just don't think we would be able to loop fast enough. Like that's why I named this kind of like bridging the dev loop between and growth loop is because I think when you start working with AI agents, one of the really nice artifacts, right, or side products, if you will, is that you kind of close this gap between development and marketing. I think a lot more closely, and I think over the last, I don't know how long, but I don't know, it feels like the last 10 years. There's been growing animosity between development and marketing, and I think it's because that gap got too wide. You know what I mean? Like there's too much space between what the marketers are out there marketing and what the product actually does, right? And how the engineers are building and want to show up in market. You know what I mean? And so we ended up literally just, I was just basically taking the change log from AMP code and like verbatim, like making those like ads, right? Like, but they're literally just like a blurb on Reddit or a blurb on X or a blurb on Meta. And just, as they rolled off the assembly line, I don't know, conveyor belt, I don't know what we use these days when, when we're talking about this, but as we were shipping, and they were shipping and still are shipping incredibly fast, um, as are we and as everybody. The goal is to like get those new features, articulated well, with proof points, right, with a call to action, with a clear and compelling offering directly to your target audience, wherever they live, right? Where they're already having a conversation about exactly that pain point that they're having. And that's the vision of Synter. Now, we have a long ways to go. I will be the first to tell you that Synter is not perfect by a mile, right? I don't think any startup is in their first 6 months going to be perfect at everything, but we're doing our best. What I can tell you, though, is that the vision is exactly what I've described is, can we get to the market before anybody else with the right feature, right, with the right solution to the right person who's literally like feeling that pain intimately. And I'll just use one really quick example, and I'll turn it back over to you, Tristan. But just this yesterday, I was on a call with I think it's like the largest power company in Florida, which I can't probably say too much because they're a public company, and they're literally doing this project that we're like, yeah, like we're looking for exactly this solution. We are having this pain that Synter might be able to solve for us, and they're like, yeah, we just looked you up, and that was it. And I showed up, right? Thankfully, right?
Mm.
But it wasn't by happenstance, right? Like I happened to be kind of, bidding on those terms. And I think what's interesting is, I think sometimes, people go into growth marketing, performance marketing, think you're going to like materialize demand. Like there's this term called demand generation. Like you're
Mm.
going to generate demand out of thin air. I think it's a bad term. I don't think that way. I think in terms of demand capture. I think the goal is to figure out where there is demand in market. I've worked with too many startups, right? Alpine Data Labs, H2O, Datamir, like a lot of startups over my tenure, where they did try to like materialize demand, and oftentimes you're just too early. Alpine Data Labs is a really good example. They had, I mean, unbelievable engineers there. Like we're doing like neural networks and like, deep learning stuff like well before the market even knew what it was. And so we were like, yeah, you need a neural network. Like, come again. So, and they ended up mostly using us, at that time. And I hope it doesn't bother anyone that I'm saying this at Alpine, but they ended up using us mostly, to, integrate systems, like a data integration system between like expensive like MPP databases to open source, Hadoop, Spark, etc. Right? And that was the main pain point that they had, despite the bells and whistles and amazing features that we felt we had for doing very advanced data science, right? There was a handful of people that used us for that were already kind of there, right, in their journeys. But yeah, you got to meet the market where they are is kind of the moral of that story. And I think with Synter, that's what I've been trying to build is like trying to tell people like not your entire audience is not on Google. Your entire audience is not on Meta, right? It's likely they could be on Reddit having a conversation. It's likely they could be on LinkedIn. They might be on TikTok. Like, I don't know. And that's why I think this idea that you no longer have to like go all in on one platform and you can kind of like find your audience where they live is I think is important. So anyways, yeah, would love to kind of hear more, Tristan, about kind of your journey, stepping into this role. I know it's a very high stress because I've been there. I know how you feel. I mean, I not right now, but I've been there in the past. Would love to kind of hear how you kind of manage, honestly, like on a personal level, on a team level, like how do you manage expectations? How do you, keep everyone aligned, and how do you keep everyone on this journey, which is progress over perfection? Because, every start, weights and biases was another example. Like I worked with that team. Like every graph that I've seen, with some exceptions, like generally it's not has nothing to do with how hard people push in a market. It has to do with when the market flips. And so honestly, a lot of like what you're doing is like just showing up, and once you get signal, like plowing into that signal, right? So, anyways, I just wanted to give you that context, but would love to hear more about how you're managing that stress and how you're managing the team. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point, and everything you said resonates with me, and I'm sure many other people at the company. But in from the GTM side, I mean, we're launching a new product in a highly saturated industry.
Mm.
I'm really just by myself on, I would call it like the marketing side because I have my great colleague. He's been here a long time working on the sales programming side and just doing a lot of outbounding. Um, but for the moment, it's really just me. So
Mm.
imagine trying to do organic, paid, manage the website, do all the emails. There's many different things and working with other vendors. I've got a million different platforms running just to manage
Mm.
the business, chat, whatever else. Um, and then I would say, so managing expectations is a delicate balance, right? Because we want a lot of signups. This product is actually quite different than what Eru is because that's a sales-led motion. We're
Mm.
using PLG,
Mm.
product-led growth. So we have a freemium model. People can sign up on their own. And I
Mm.
think setting the right expectations about what they're going to do in the product is very important. So not only internally, as you pointed out, but for the prospect or potential customer, we have to set the right expectation. I would
Mm.
say Synter, just because you happen to be the CEO, I will mention that because it was an early platform I found uh, by Googling around, and that's where I found you guys
Mm.
and started using it. And in the beginning, I actually didn't really understand how to use it. And then you and I got on the phone, and then you effectively convinced me that oh, it can do all these different things. And I didn't realize how powerful it was. And
Mm.
Cinter is something I use every single day.
Mm.
So I have many paid platforms that are running through there. We've got Search, X, Reddit, LinkedIn. I'm going to add TikTok
Mm.
soon. I'm just setting up our profile today. So everything you could
Nice.
possibly imagine. Plus, I have, Google Tag Manager in there. We have our Search Console. One of my favorite things about it, and Joel, I know you're adding a lot of agents all the time, is to really take a step back and say, all right, I've been doing all these things on my own. This is how much money I'm spending. Center, go and figure out what does this mean, right?
Mm.
I'll explain my audience, put in the website. It will analyze everything, look at the competitors. I can provide some more context around this is what we're trying to do, and then tell me, I think to circle back to your point, this is where your potential customers live.
Mm.
And based on what's going on in the market, this is where you should be spending money. And what I really like about it, I've been doing this exercise in the last 24 hours, is I'm not happy with the performance of my ads because it's just a very like crowded market and we're slowly dipping our toes into paid. And what
Mm.
Cinter pointed out is you're not going to solve this problem by just throwing money at it. What we've been analyzing, me and Center, a non-person, which I guess you could say is an extension of you, Joel, as a human being, but is that, hey, like we are looking at performance now, X, Reddit, etc. You're not
Mm.
really getting any leads from these places. So if you want to do awareness and traffic-based ads, that's totally fine,
Mm.
paraphrasing Center. But if you want just leads, cut a lot of budget out of these other platforms and spend more money on search. Now, we
Mm.
can't compete with larger competitors, right? They're
Right.
spending $100,000 plus just on Google search. I'm not
Yeah.
spending that kind of money. So, what was interesting is Cinter came back yesterday and said, all right, well, there's kind of like, you know, a spend level that per day or per month that is not going to really get you anything. There's the optimum level, which is recommended, which I always like the recommended element. That's
Mm,
anything related to an AI powered product. I always like to have a recommendation because
mm,
it's hard for me to decide and I don't have all the context or the data. And then saying, hey, if you go over this threshold, it actually is just going to be wasted money. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but it's just,
right.
it doesn't actually give you anything incremental. So, because I was going in circles trying to figure out, like, am I spending the right amount of money? It's not
Mm,
doing anything. Do we need to be spending more? And actually, what it said is you got to pick the right platform,
mm,
right? Where it is more demand capture, I think, to your earlier point, instead of
mm,
demand gen. I can't generate demand for this product. Everyone is
mm,
having the same problem,
mm,
but people are using Claude Code or Codex to check their own work. But what we found is that it's like having, myself taking a test and then checking it myself, right? Like it's just checking your own work doesn't make sense. You need what I've been calling it is an independent or objective arbiter
mm,
in between and getting all of that context. So that's more like marketing against the competitors and trying to stay not only relevant but kind of go beyond what they're doing today. And
mm,
Synter has really helped me understand that audience, where they live, what should we be saying. It will go and look at all the search terms, the competitive ads. And one of my favorite things about Synter, which is arguably one of the most arduous, right, is setting up campaigns. Google, before I found Synter, this was like around in May, April when I was in pre-launch setup.
mm,
Uh, it took me 4 hours to set up all the Google search campaigns.
mm,
Plus, I was just relying on Claude, like what kind of terms should we be using?
mm,
All that got analyzed in Synter, and it said, well, a lot of this is not right. You should be spending here and not here. But just the pure execution was mind blowing to me the first time I
mm,
saw it. Like that was the aha or wow moment of the product is being able to go in there. Hey, we created all the campaigns. I would look in there and they had miraculously appeared. Okay, now all the keywords
mm,
are done. Now the negatives are done. Now the budget is set.
mm,
And I just really didn't even need to do anything. I don't really go into these platforms very often other than looking at, okay, what's set up in here? What should I turn off, etc.
mm,
So Google, that was the moment where I realized like I should not be doing this on my own. I don't have the kind of context and information in order to make decisions independently. And I'm but one human being, right? We're all
right.
mortal, and I have limitations around what I know. So that's what I appreciated. And now there's this ongoing history with Cinter for the last several months, 2, 3 months, as long as I've been using the product, where it
Mm,
knows what I've been doing and
mm,
saying this is working, this is not working. And I love that you can connect lots of things that you had recommended, like post hog or loops, creating audiences through there. So you've got this whole circular platform where, obviously you're always looking at the product and looking to expand it, but trying to get a more holistic view, which is the attempt of Hyrax and our main goal
mm,
is not to just take this myopic view like Center is for paid. It's actually getting all the signals and
mm.
figuring out what works and what doesn't work from a demand capture perspective in order to actually gain relevance in the market for the most efficient budget or time being spent on that.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm just like, wow, like that's to a founder, like it is miraculous. Like I got to tell you, it is miraculous that any of this stuff works cuz I was having dinner and I want to say it was like circa 2023 in San Francisco and with a buddy of mine and he was like, all this AI stuff is just alien tech. Like we don't really know what's going on here. So the fact that we can kind of like harness this power. I know we're getting close to time, and it looks like you might have to go, but yeah, it is miraculous what we're all doing here, and I think we're all on a journey. I think one other thing that I'll share is that I was on with another customer of mine. Um, his name is Al Nafa. He's at Span.app. He's a growth marketer there, and he's phenomenal. Like really a phenomenal person, and also and it's interesting to me because the personalities are pretty similar of you and him. If I was being honest, like it's fascinating. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but what he shared with me at one point was, and I hope he doesn't mind that I'm saying this, but he's like, look, we really need a platform that we could experiment with. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's kind of like if you read X too much or LinkedIn too much, like people are gonna talk about ads and growth as if there's one answer. There's not. You know,
No.
it's experimentation, truly. And I've waded into growth now, not to make this about me, but growth is continuously changing. And I actually just put a blog out today about agent-led growth. I think it went like marketing-led growth with like the Mad Men of like the 50s or whatever it was, which is pretty, anyways, that has its issues. Then it went to like sales-led growth. Like you have like the snowflakes of the world that just plowed into market, you know what I mean? And then you have product-led growth, right, with Clay and other companies that are still kind of in that era. I think we're now very much agent-led growth. And so I did an article about it. And so I think one of the things that we're seeing is like, how do you make your product visible to agents that they can actually start thinking about, recommending it as well, which I think is really
Yes.
interesting for Hyrax. So
Agent-led growth, I love that term,
yeah.
because we think the future of anything related to our product, whether it's Hyrax or Eru, is agent-led, right?
Mm,
Like Okta has been coming out with all kinds of agent-led identity solutions
mm,
recently.
mm.
So, I loved talking to you. I do have to go. I'm getting kicked out of this room. That's the
No
nature of
worries. That's
startup.
the nature of
But
growth.
I appreciate the conversation and many more. I'm going to go back to using Synter later today to do all my setup of doing the continuous growth. So it was always a pleasure to chat with you, Joel. And I love Synter, and I'm hoping that more people will be able to leverage that to do more asymmetric growth.
Mm.
To your point about growth, and that also people give Hyrax a try. And we're always looking for feedback, so you can contact me directly.
Thank you, Tristan. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you,
it. And
Joel.
Hyrax is great. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks,
Okay.
sir.
Bye for now. Hey everyone, this is Joel. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. We're going to be doing these starting back up again in September. We have some really awesome guests planned for our fall series. So if you want to check us out, go to centermedia.ai and sign up there. If you reach out to me directly on X with like a DM or a LinkedIn InMail, happy to give you $100 of free credits to try Synter, like with no commitment, really required. And yeah, stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. And thank you all for joining us today. And yeah, happy growing. Talk to you soon.